Hi everyone, Michael Anfield here, and thank you for joining me on my YouTube channel. So, today's topic is natural. What does it mean? It's found on boxes. It's naturally grown. Natural. It's 100% natural. What does that mean exactly? So, for everyone, it's going to mean a little bit different. The dictionary says one thing, and corporations say one thing. What does it actually mean? Well, the dictionary has 15 definitions. Merriam-Webster's dictionary has 15 definitions of what natural means. Now, this is my view, and this is what I feel that natural actually means. Natural means that it comes from nature, untouched. So natural basically is organic or veganic in that fact because it's not touched. Actually, it's not veganic, veganic is basically not using additional inputs from animals like manure and blood meal and bone meal and feather meal and all that. So natural is basically veganic, and wild grown is veganic. It's veganic system. Nothing is added to it. Just naturally, an animal goes there and poops next to the tree. That's veganic because no added input is in the plants, in the ground. So natural is just that, untouched, unaltered, unprocessed. When you add manure from external sources or you add blood meal or bone meal or whatever, you're adding extra things to it. So it's not natural. Okay? However, however, when we are creating a garden is not totally natural. What's totally natural is if you go into nature and you see that nature as it is, the environment. That is natural. But a garden is not natural because it's man-made. Okay? But we can try to replicate nature as best as possible to make it the most natural environment as possible, which means that we need a lot of trees for animals to live in and animals to be in. So growing monocropped, wheat or whatever the case may be, is not natural. So we got to make it as natural as possible, closest to nature as possible. So replicating nature is what we want. So to plant trees and plant fruit trees and plant vegetables and plant herbs and plant all kinds of edible food everywhere. Not in rows, not in, so many different ways, but just how it is. There's no grass in nature. There's all kinds of soil and twigs and wood chips and leaves and branches and all kinds of stuff. But you don't see in nature much grass. Only in artificial settings do you see grass. Grass doesn't exist in nature, maybe in fields or meadows or things like that, but otherwise they don't exist in especially when you go to the forest, they don't really exist. Especially when it comes to tropical areas, you don't see much grass out in nature. So that is artificial. That is artificial. Okay, because not it's man-made, which means it's artificial. So what we must do is we must replicate nature in our gardens. How do we do that? Well, first what we do is we remove all the grass from our backyards. Okay, maybe keeping some of it to play on or something like that, or to build a patio or things like that. But you get rid of all the grass. And when you get rid of all the grass, you basically have a system that's now ready to start gardening or farming. And I'm not talking about farming with animals, I'm talking about actually farming, not harming. And so we farm plants. We don't farm animals, we farm plants. Animals are not to be used or touched, to be cared for, to be loved. If they want to come close to us and hug us, then that be. But we don't go over and scare them and try to hug them and try to use them and manipulate them and take their fluids from them. No. So we take off the grass and we take off a little bit of the top of the soil. We take off, let's say, about an inch or two, maybe lower, and you add not just wood chips. You add a lot of wood chips, but you add compost, you add twigs and leaves, and you add all sorts of things back to the soil. You add humanure, and you add urine from vegans. Only vegan humanure and urine. And you kind of mix it up. You spread it all around that top layer which we took off to make it even. And now you're ready to plant. Of course, making sure that the whole area, your whole backyard or whole whatever area you're using for gardening, has rows where you can walk in. Okay, so proper rows that you can walk in, proper rows that you can leave small little trailer there if you need to put some gardening tools on there and stuff like that. So having rows that you can actually walk on and plant your plants. Now the best way that I found to grow food, the best way I found to grow food is this way. Now there are certain things that you must learn, and I'm going to give you a few tips. Now if you want to grow trees, like fruit trees, then I recommend this. It's the easiest, the fastest, and the best method to grow anything quickly. Okay, quickly. So you designate one area where you put your food scraps. Okay, so this is just an area where you put some food scraps, not all of them. It's not a compost. It's just an area where you put some food scraps, a good area where you have pretty good soil. You throw in also some humanure and some urine. You throw that all in, and you just throw the seeds in. Don't plant the seeds, just throw them in. I've found that if you just throw seeds in, they will grow better just like that. Because that's what in nature what happens is birds just poop everything down, the seeds down, and the trees just grow naturally. Nobody has to, the bird doesn't have to go down and dig a hole with a shovel and put the seed in the ground and cover it up. They don't have to do that. They just poop it down from somewhere above and they start to grow eventually. And I find that actually they start to grow within a few weeks. For example, avocados start to grow within a few weeks. I've known other methods and other methods like putting the bag in, putting the avocado in um, a clear plastic bag, like one of those lunch bags with some soil, doesn't work, okay? Or works very, very little, very, very poorly. I've noticed that putting the avocado seed halfway into a cup with half water and held by some um, toothpicks doesn't work. It may work, it may take some time for it to grow and all this stuff. It may take years for it to start growing a little bit. But when you throw it in that compost pile, Man, does it grow within a few weeks. It grows within a few weeks, few days. Sometimes you start seeing sprouts. It's sprouting. It's amazing. Just throwing it there is what works. I've tested it and it works. So once the whole area where you're going to grow things is ready, you put wood chips and leaves and twigs and branches and you put human manure, not animal manure, but human manure, urine, all sorts of things. Then you're ready, and mix it up, of course, with some little bit of sand and a little bit of soil and all that stuff. Then you're ready to start planting. So once you have this small little area designated for just throwing in your avocado pits, and let's say the plant is like, I don't know how high this is, but an inch or a couple inches, you dig it up and you are now ready to replant that avocado. So once it becomes such a height, a couple inches, you'll know when it's ready. It will feel very sturdy. It will be like pretty big, um, and it's ready to replant. Okay, so you have 20 avocados, for example, and you replant them. You replant them in different areas of your garden, different areas, not in line. The line in line is the easiest way, but it is not the best way because in nature that's not how it is. Birds poop everywhere and there's trees all over the place. Not in rows, not in lines, and there's no grass at all either. So this system has no grass, so you don't have to keep chopping, you don't have to keep pulling weeds. There's absolutely no grass. Okay? So now what happens? So you plant your avocados or any other plant, you plant them to the desired depth, whatever it is. For example, if it seems like the plant is leaning over or the plant is out too far, then you plant it a little bit deeper than it should be. So then you plant them sporadically in different places. One avocado here, one avocado there, one avocado tree there, one avocado tree there, and then you put watermelons, this, that, and you spread it all around everywhere. And that way you have plants in different areas, different places. And some plants work better with other plants, so you have to know which plants work better and you put them closer to each other. And you find that if you have a problem with insects or you have a problem that maybe some birds or insects are eating some of your plants, then you have to companion plant and put the plants, again, put the certain plants beside each other that work well to get rid of insects and the insects that are eating your plants or the birds that are eating your plants. Some other ways that you can create natural insecticide is tobacco. So you grow tobacco, you grind it up, you add it in water, you use spray bottle, and you spray it on the leaves and in the ground. White lime is also good to use. Urine is also good to use from humans, of course, and vegans specifically. And human manure from human vegans. And what else? That's about it basically. And then your plants will start growing. And one thing is that very, very little, very little maintenance when it comes to this system. But you have to do it. You have to get rid of all the grass throughout your yard. So in the beginning, it's going to be hard. You're going to have to get rid of all your grass. You're going to have to get rid of at least a couple inches of the soil, the topsoil. Get rid of it. Put wood chips, twigs, leaves, soil, mix it all in, compost, urine, human manure, all that stuff. All that. Get rid of all the grass. Get rid of all the weeds, and you're ready for the best recipe for gardening. Okay, the best recipe for gardening. Whew, that was a mouthful or a handful. so to say. So that is my tips on gardening, the best way to garden. And after a year or two, there's very, very minimal maintenance. The plants do the work for you. All you have to do is harvest them, and that's it. Very simple. The only thing that I would add to this is that make the trees a little bit taller than you are. Okay? So the trees no more than, let's say, 6 feet and a half or something like that. So prune them, the tops of the trees, and make them spread out wider than taller. The the shortness of the tree will actually bear more fruit, and it will spread outwards. I found over the course of many months and years of gardening that the taller your tree, the less it actually gives out. So the tree should be your height, a little bit taller than your height, and spread out, make it wider. The tree will grow wider, and the tree will actually love you, first of all, and the tree will produce tons and tons and tons of fruit, especially when you give it this much care in the beginning. So it might be a lot of work in the beginning to garden, to grow your own, to have your own garden and to have your own orchard. But I'm telling you, this is the best method for growing. This is the best method for growing food. Now, let's say you want to create indoor garden, so in pots. Is it going to be the same method? And the answer is basically yes. So what you're going to do is you're going to not buy soil from from the stores. Soil from the stores are lousy. And that's why a lot of fruit or a lot of herbs or a lot of vegetables that people grow or people plant don't grow. Don't grow. There's very, very low, rate of chances of growing, of bearing. So what you need to do is you need to take this system. So create an indoor, get a huge bucket, a huge, huge bucket where you can create good soil, good black soil. Now, I'm working with somebody that doesn't do this, unfortunately, and I see a lot of mistakes that that person is doing. I just do the way that he wants it done. And I'm not saying that that is a bad system, but that is not the best system. That you just buy soil from the store and put it in. No, 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 no. And then use a little bit of fertilizer from the store. No. Create what comes naturally from nature. Create what comes naturally from nature. So, this is the recipe, the best recipe for indoor gardening in pots. Okay, the best recipe. Now, the pot has to have holes in the bottom so that the water drains out. When you water the plant, you need it to drain out from the bottom. Give it enough water to drain out from the bottom so that you know that the whole root system is getting water that it needs. So you basically have this huge bucket and you go to nature and you take soil from nature. Okay? You take whatever soil, whatever twigs, whatever leaves, whatever branches, small little branches and twigs, whatever things that you can find in nature. Okay? So that's what you're going to do. So you're going to take whatever you can from nature and bring it home and put it into that container. Okay? So fill it up, let's say halfway. Then you're going to fill up a little bit more. You're going to put wood chips in there. So very, very fine wood chips you're going to put into that container. You're going to mix it all up. Then you're going to put in your compost. And the compost has to be chopped very finely, okay? Very fine. It has to be chopped up. It has to be there for about 6 months, at least 6 months to a year. Really fine chop it, okay? Then you're going to put in some humanure, vegan humanure, and vegan urine. And you're going to put that all into the soil and you're going to mix it up all together. Once that is done, it's about 6 months to a year before that soil will become rich and black. Black, 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 black and rich. And that has all the nutrients that you could ever want. You don't need to put anything else in that. It's totally natural. It's coming from nature. So, that being said, you water it every so often, that soil. You make it so that once the soil is black and is ready to be used, you put it into containers. Plain and simple. And every so often, you add to the containers a little bit urine. And the urine should be fresh urine within, let's say, a few days at most. I've tested it out to be up to a week old urine, and actually that works too. And so you spray it on the urine, you spray on all the plants that are every plant you spray it on, especially the plants that are either dying or the plants that are just starting to grow. And that is the best recipe for planting, for gardening, for farming. The best recipe. You're going to get the best, absolute best results. I've tried it, I've tested it, and it works. It's the best method. I've seen other methods and they don't come anywhere close to actually beating this system. It is the best system because I've tried it and it works. You just have to be very patient and very loving and very caring. And there's so many tips, additional tips and tricks that you can try. But another thing that I want to tell you before I finish this video, and I know this video is getting a little long, but I want to really talk about this in detail so that people understand what does it take to garden and farm. It takes absolutely nothing, no work, absolutely no work. Well, not exactly. It does take some work within the first few years of gardening, but after that, probably all you need is a rake, and that's it. Because the work is done for you. In nature, nobody tends to nature with a shovel and a fork and all that stuff. No, in nature, nature takes care of herself. Nature takes care of herself. The trees take care of themselves. The animals help with that by, dispersing seeds and so forth. But nature takes care of herself. And so why are we breaking our backs year after year after year after year gardening when we don't have to? I mean, maybe it's a little different story if you're living in colder climates and, there's winter and so forth. But if you're living in the subtropics and tropical areas, if you're gardening indoors in pots and stuff, it's very simple and you're going to get majority of your plants growing like you wouldn't imagine. I've tested it out and I'm telling you how it works. Test it out for yourself. Be kind and be loving to the plants. And they need a lot of work in the beginning. They need a lot of work. Definitely need a lot of work. They need grow lights. They need all those things. They need warmth. They need warmth. And they need grow lights. And they need all these things in the beginning. So you really have to understand what you're doing. And you have to replicate nature. You're not going to replicate nature by adding in animals. Absolutely not. So you got to replicate nature as best as we can. Now, nature is not found in our basement, but sometimes we have to garden and we have to do it in such a way where we're breaking natural laws. But that's just how it is in our crazy world that we live in today. We have to garden inside because we don't all live in the tropics, and so we have to take pots and we have to, garden indoors and we have to do the best that we can. But the methods that I've specified to you, that I gave you, are the building blocks to the best garden ever, ever, ever. Maybe you might fail the first few times because you're new at it, but once you get the hang of it, once you get going, oh my goodness, it's amazing. It's amazing. It really does work. It's the best recipe for gardening, for planting. Try it. I know we're so used to the methods of putting animal manure and putting animal urine and putting animal blood meal and bone meal and feather meal and putting fertilizer and doing all these things and just buying soil from the store and putting soil from the store in there. That's not the best method. That's not the best method. That's why we have to do it the right way. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to give this a thumbs up, like it. Like it, like it, like it, like it. Press that like button. Share it around with your friends and family. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And also, don't forget that my website, weareinterconnected.com, is coming out very shortly. And I thank you for joining me today. And I will see you soon. I figured out I figured out my mouse now. Ooh! It wasn't working how to get it out from sleep. I figured a way. Ooh, anyways, thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.